Now he says, now that you have been, and by the way, this is what Allah does. Whenever He gives someone an advantage, every time He gives someone an advantage, He immediately talks about their responsibilities. Something Allah does all the time. As soon as He talks about your rights, He'll talk about your what? Responsibilities. Because then what happens is people become obsessed with their rights and they forgo their responsibilities. So it seems women have been given some rights here. They have to be taken care of. They have to be spent on. Yeah? By the men. They're doing all the work right now. They're doing the caretaking and they're doing the spending. So now what are the responsibilities of women? فَصَالِحَات, good women, قَانِتَاتٌ, they're subservient. Some argue subservient to Allah because qunut only comes with Allah. But also in being subservient to Allah, they're also being subservient reasonably to their husbands. In other words, they listen to their husband. If their husband's asking them not to go out late at night, they listen. If he's saying, maybe you shouldn't go with these people, I don't like that group, or I don't like the way they have their gatherings, etc. She should listen to that. She should listen to she shouldn't just say, where's your hadith? Where's the husband and wife can have a conversation. He could say, you got that job offer, but it's a very long commute. You're not going to get home until midnight every day. Maybe you should look for another job. And she says, but I really like that job, and maybe you should discuss it, but you should take his advice more seriously. This is part of qunut. But then there's also, and by the way, qanit also means willingness to obey. Some Mufassirin argue it's primarily willingness to obey to Allah. Qumu lillahi qanitin. And that's a pretty strong evidence. Because qumu lillahi qanitin, this is grammar I haven't taught you yet, there's a taqdeem in it. Only for the sake of Allah stand with qunut. Only for the sake of Allah. In other words, qunut, subservience, willingness to obey, essentially only exists for Allah. So then they argue that qanitat here, there should be in obedience to who? Allah. There seems to be another evidence for that, which is in the ayah, حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. They guard the unseen on account of what Allah wanted guarded, or what Allah guarded. Now what does that mean? They guard the unseen, or they are guardians of the unseen in what Allah guarded. It means a few things. I'll share the primary meaning and some secondary meanings with you. The primary meaning is that women are in the unseen of their homes. They're in the privacy of their homes when the man is out to work. And much of the time what she does is she knows. The conversations she has, she knows. Her friends know, nobody else knows. The husband doesn't know. And the biggest thing that she's guarding is the dignity and the trust of her husband. She's guarding the respect of that entire household. So if she is loyal to her husband, she's not, flirting with other men, ma'adallah, or having an affair or this and that. She's guarding the unseen. She's not allowing some man to come into the house, or worse. She's not doing any of that. Then she's guarding the unseen. Is that much clear? That's the primary meaning here, that they are loyal wives. They're loyal to their men. They're loyal to their husbands. Okay? The second meaning is actually that women, Allah is describing a quality of them. Some ulama of lugha have actually commented on this, saying that women actually have much more concern for the unseen than men do. Not in the imani sense, but even in the imani sense sometimes, but actually in just generally as a psychological thing. For example, you're about to buy a car as a family. The husband goes, sits in the car, vroom, vroom. Okay, let's do it. The wife sitting next to him says, wait, can we talk about this? What about? And there's a hesitation. The man wants to do what? Let's do it. And the woman says what? No, wait, let's look at some other options, or can we think about this? Do we really need it? And he gets upset. What do you mean, we really need it? I already discussed this with you. We really need it. I really need it. I really need this one. When you're about to buy a house, who has the major reluctance? The woman does. Are we sure about this one? The husband's like, well, look, we've seen 30 homes. I'm tired. We're getting this one. I'm done. The guy was ready to buy the first one. Because the woman says, what about the future? What about, we don't know everything about the neighbors. We don't know this, we don't know this, we don't know this. She gets worried about a lot of the unknowns, the things that are in the unseen. And she wants to protect what is in the unseen. And the husband wants to what? Jump in, we'll deal with it later. And actually, this is how men and women balance each other. One of the ways they balance each other is, he just wants to jump into everything, and she wants to what? pulling back a little bit, and that's how they balance each other out. If you just leave it to women, then you're not going to get anywhere because you're just going to, I'm not sure. If you just leave it to men, you're going to end up in a lot of bad situations. You need the both of them to balance each other out. Is that understandable? That's hafidhatun lil ghaib. They guard what they can't see. They're protective of things. They're more reluctant. They have that reluctance, you know. They operate differently. But anyway, that's the primary meaning was what? Loyalty. Right? And the second, that reluctance of unknown factors. Then, now that Allah says this, the rest of it is about husbands who are afraid of a problem with their wife. This is where the juicy part begins. Wallati, and those women, takhafuna nushuzahunna, that you are afraid of their uprising. Nashaza or nushuz is actually uprising. When something jumps up, like water boils out, that's called nushuz too. Okay? Now, nushuz is if you're afraid of their uprising. Nushuzahunna, mudaf mudaf ilayh. Okay, takhafuna, by the way, antum takhafuna, present tense, yeah? Those women whose uprising you are afraid of. The first question that arises, there's a number of questions. The first one that arises is, when is a man ever afraid? I mean, unless his wife works out and she's, you know, like, normally, when is a husband afraid that the wife is not going to listen to something? Like, if husbands are such authorities, then when the wife doesn't listen, they get upset, they get angry, they get depressed, they get sad, but they don't get what? Fear is a strange word here. It's throwing a wrench into this problem because we don't associate the disobedience of a woman, men don't associate the disobedience of a woman with fear. You know, I'm afraid to ask her if she made dinner. I'm not cooking dinner. You know, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic. That's not realistic. So the first question is, why is fear being used here? Takhafuna. The second real question is actually use of the word nushuz. What does nushuz, what does uprising mean? Is uprising that I asked her to put 3 teaspoons of sugar, she put 2? Because you're supposed to hit if they have nushuz. That's what the ayah is going to say apparently to some people. You know, what does uprising mean? Now the thing is, there's no clear outside evidence what nushuz means. Outside evidence. When you don't have clear outside evidence, actually you shouldn't even go to outside evidence until you've done exhausting what? Inside evidence, Quranic evidence, the evidence of Allah's own words. He calls them ayatun bayyinat after all, clear, self-evident ayat. In this ayah, on the one hand, there are good women. How were they described? Righteous, they do good deeds, they're subservient, they guard the unseen. 3 qualities, yes? The third and the climactic quality was what? They guard the unseen, which primarily means they are loyal to their husbands. Now let me tell you, if there's one thing a husband might get scared of, is that she's thinking about someone else. Scares the life out of him. Scares the life out of him. If you're afraid of an uprising in terms of the loyalty of your spouses. Where are we getting this from? From the ayah itself. Because the loyalty of the spouse is being now contrasted with her uprising. Because the ayah itself, many ayat of the Quran, what do you find? In'ikas. Allah will mention something and contrast it with something else. Then He'll mention something and He'll contrast it with something else. What is He contrasting them with? Their haya is now turning into fahisha. Their shame is turning into shamelessness. And by the way, when the women, their ultimate, like, you know, when they came to give bay'ah to the Prophet ﷺ, la yasriqna wa la yaznina, immediately, they're not going to steal, they're not going to do zina. Like, who comes to the Prophet ﷺ? They should, you know, they first said, we're not going to do shirk. We won't steal and we won't do zina. Why? Because that's actually something that's terrifying to the husbands. That's a terrifying thought. It's the most painful thing, you know. The Prophet ﷺ would describe it as the closest thing in this dunya to Jahannam for a man. Which helps you understand why fear is being used. Because we're afraid of Jahannam, right? Now, if you understand it in that context, then you understand one more thing. He doesn't have evidence. In this ayah, he does not have evidence. The ayat of Surah An-Nur, his evidence, He's witness and he testifies against the spouse. Here, instead of having evidence, all he has is fear. He's got fear that they have an uprising. Which means, should he testify against her, accuse her? No. But should he bring up his concern? Yeah. So he brings up his concern in what language? فَعِذُوهُنَّ. Counsel them. Advise them. Listen, I don't like you're working too late. You're doing too much overtime. And I don't know why you're texting that. Why is he texting you so much? I know you guys went to the same college, but why is he texting you? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? I know you think it's harmless, but I don't like it. He tries to advise her. He can't accuse her of anything. We've already established that from Surah An-Nur. Nothing changes. He notices more things. What does he do? وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. Leave them in the beds. Depart from them in the beds. Now, a woman, when a husband doesn't sleep in the same bed, is supposed to be traumatized. It's supposed to be the worst punishment for a loving wife that the husband won't sleep in the same bed. He purposely goes and sleeps on the couch. He purposely goes and sleeps with the kids and leaves her in the bed alone is a form of torture. But he's so disgusted with her behavior. And he's noticing more and more things. She's dressing up more and more when she goes out. She's coming back home later and later and later. She's not giving him time. And he's just disturbed by it. And he just can't get himself to lie down next to her. If there's any ounce of goodness left in her, what's she going to do? She's going to come over and say, come to bed. Why are you sleeping over there? She'd do that. And then they'll give them a chance to talk. But if she's okay with him sleeping away, if she's okay with that, and she says, more room for me, then she's already starting to get emotionally divorced. She's comfortable with her man not being next to her. That's a very serious problem. Now he notices that she doesn't have a problem. I've been in bed and I've been on the couch and she didn't even once get bothered by it. Not once did she say, why don't you come to bed? Not once. And I advised her about those things and those things are still continuing. And then his fears are getting lesser or worse? His fears are getting worse. And finally, he can't take it anymore. And he hits her. She was going out, he saw the guy, something. Situation came and he actually what? How could you do this? And he hit her. Why did he hit her? The question is, why did he hit her? Because of? What's the context of it? Is the context she didn't put enough sugar in the tea? She didn't put enough salt in the nasi lemak? She didn't, she didn't finish the laundry? Or, he told her to do the bills and she didn't do the bills. Why did he hit her? It got out of hand to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. He completely lost it and he ended up what? Hitting her. Over and over or one time? Well, and by the way, if that happens. If this ayah was not there. Imagine this ayah was not there and you had no problems. There was no ayah. Any husband, any religion, any society, if they were in that situation, things would get ugly. At the very least, he would grab her and say, what are you doing, woman? How can you do this to me? So, if he's emotionally attached to her, if she's the mother of his kids, if she's a family, then something will get out of hand. By the way, in the United States, when a boyfriend catches his girl cheating or text messages or whatever, what happens? They kill them. They call them crimes of passion. Bones are broken, hospitalizations, comas, murders, all in the name of crime of passion. You know what that means? This urge of a man to protect his woman or to not be able to stand infidelity is so powerful that it can drive a person to murder. Realistically speaking, this ayah or not, that's the nature of a man. If he's completely given himself to this woman and she does this to him, he's going to lose it. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't give him the license to kill or to injure or to murder. But He says, if it got a hand and you let go of your hand, I'm going to let you get away with that one. I'll let you get away. I'm sorry. I know it's not politically correct. I know. But Allah is speaking to the fitrah of the human being. أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ. He'll let him get away. And then on top of that is the ethics of how the Prophet ﷺ would even condone hitting. He never hit, by the way. He never hit. How he would. That's the subject matter of the ayat. فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ. If they start obeying you, in other words, they leave their bad ways, they leave the nushuz, they come back to you, فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. Then don't make a case against them. By the way, pursuing a case against someone is actually used when you're going to go after them with the full extent of the law.